January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, a time when headlines and press conferences often drown out the voices of those most affected. Each year, cities host panels, release proclamations, and spotlight dramatic rescues, but rarely do we talk about the price tag behind these operations or who actually benefits from them. In this week's post, we follow the first stage of that money trail by examining what a trafficking sting really costs law enforcement before a single case ever reaches the courthouse. When police announce a major human trafficking bust, headlines light up with arrests, rescues, and charges. What's missing is the other number, the cost to law enforcement. Behind every press release is a taxpayer-funded operation that runs like a small war campaign: planning meetings, multi-agency coordination, surveillance details, undercover buys, decoy locations, digital forensics, equipment rentals, vehicles and fuel, command staff, and, yes, a polished media rollout. For a single 5-day sting, those front-end policing costs alone routinely reach hundreds of thousands of dollars. And for all that spending, very few trafficking victims are actually identified. The majority of people arrested are consensual adult sex workers or clients. A history of bad math. This isn't new. In the 1970s, San Francisco organizer Margot St. James, founder of Coyote, Call Off Your Old Tired Ethics, was already calling out the fiscal absurdity of vice policing. In 1977, San Francisco spent over $2 million to arrest, prosecute, and jail 2,938 people on prostitution charges, about $680 per arrest then, $3,570 today. Her line still stings. If you think these women are expensive, you should see what the men who arrest them cost. 50 years later, the math has only gotten uglier. The hidden ledger of a rescue. Modern stings are logistical spectacles. While the public sees handcuffs and podiums, the real billable hours pile up in the background. Officer labor and overtime, weeks of planning, surveillance, undercover work, and arrests, fleet and fuel, multi-car details across jurisdictions, maintenance, mileage, equipment and tech, recording gear, decoy locations, digital forensics, extractions, secure comms, command and supervision, task force leads, coordination briefings, and after-action reviews. And yes, media ops, public information officer time, press kits, graphics, and coordinated announcements. These are policing costs only. They do not include prosecutors, public defenders, clerks, interpreters, or jail intake, the much larger price tag that comes after the handcuffs. Operation Cross Country, big optics, opaque budgets. Every summer until 2023, the FBI's Operation Cross Country, OCC, mobilizes hundreds of agencies for a nationwide human trafficking rescue sweep. The FBI boasts of its partnerships, 200-plus agencies, and hundreds of operations, yet has never published a full accounting of costs or arrest details. Despite more than a decade of OCC campaigns, no official public budget or per-arrest data exists. That lack of transparency is a data point in itself, because if the price tag and outcomes were defensible, they'd be published. It's worth noting that the FBI announced it will not be coordinating any more Operation Cross Country actions as of 2023. What is known comes from local reporting and independent analyses that have stitched together partial data. For several iterations, the FBI's national press releases omitted key information, specifically the number of consensual adult prostitution arrests versus human trafficking charges. Operation Cross Country in 2016, independent aggregation of local reports from participating cities found roughly 534 prostitution arrests and 10 human trafficking arrests, with adult sex workers and customers making up about 72% of all interactions. Operation Cross Country in 2014, In 28 of 106 cities that disclosed additional data, there were 985 prostitution arrests. Operation Cross Country in 2013. In 23 of 76 cities that released figures, 946 sex worker arrests were reported. While not comprehensive, these local reports reveal a clear pattern. The majority of arrests in past OCC operations involved consensual adult sex work, not human trafficking. So while the FBI frames OCC as a child protection effort, the numbers suggest it's still largely an expensive, resource-intensive prostitution sting, just rebranded as anti-trafficking work. What it costs law enforcement to save 50 people. To understand how those costs stack up, consider a conservative breakdown for a 5-day, 50-arrest sting, law enforcement side only. Officer labor and overtime, planning, surveillance, undercover work, arrest, $220,000 with 80 officer hours per arrest at $55 an hour equals a staggering $4,400 per arrest. Vehicles, fuel, and fleet maintenance, $20,000. Equipment and technology, recorders, decoy site rentals, information technology, and forensics, $50,000. Command and supervision, multi-agency coordination and briefings, $30,000. Media coordination and press operations, $5,000. Subtotal, law enforcement only, $325,000. That's roughly $6,500 per arrest before the courts, jails, and so-called rescue programs even get involved. Scaled up to a multi-agency national sting like Operation Cross Country, we're looking at millions of dollars spent on labor, vehicles, and logistics, often to arrest consenting adults rather than dismantle trafficking networks. Opportunity cost. What police don't do while doing this. Every hour poured into vice stings is an hour not spent investigating missing persons, assaults, or violent crimes. When officers are chasing escorts, they're not pursuing predators. From a purely fiscal and safety standpoint, this is a bad trade. Why this matters. When people ask, why decriminalize sex work? This is part of the answer. Criminalization isn't just harmful, it's fiscally irrational. For the cost of a single 5-day sting, police departments could redirect hundreds of officer hours toward actual safety and community engagement, or better yet, redirect the funding altogether into housing, outreach, and harm reduction services that prevent exploitation before it happens. Operation Cross Country isn't a public safety success story. It's a budgetary black hole masquerading as compassion. The bottom line, if we truly want to fight exploitation, we must stop funding raids and start funding rights. Support sex worker-led organizations that build safety, housing, and community, not handcuffs. Because $1 million sting can't buy what solidarity builds for free: trust, care, and freedom.